back to On the Fly. We're previewing the predicting and recapping World Junior Championships, our Men's World Championships, the Women's World Championship, the U18 Men's World Championship. Expect the unexpected.
Absolute abomination of the Canadian Junior Nationals.
I have a couple extra words I want to use on that one. And it's Freebird. Freebird, Freebird, Freebird. Of course, the Olympics are just around the corner. I'm going to coin it the rivalry day.
World Junior history!
Your home for international hockey. This is On the Fly. And a hot start to the morning as we were muted, but we are back underway for another live stream between today's game between Germany and Slovakia. It's gonna be a good one today. And you look at these two teams, extremely close, not just in the standings, but also in the way that they're built. You have a pretty similar composition. Today, likely going to be a battle between depth and star talent. And of course, we will see which team does come out on top as really the winners of this one. But you look at it, for the Germans, you're going to look to players like Leon Draisaitl, Tim Stützle to kind of lead the charge, Moritz Seider on the back end, and then of course, Grubauer in net for the German team today. On the other side of the puck, you'll look to Sam Halavai in net for the Slovaks. You look to Juraj Slafkovský, Dalibor Dvorsky, Simon Nemec to be that kind of leading charge. And you look to the Slovak team, very tight today. Should be a great game. But before we get into the game action today, we will talk a little bit more about the playoff picture and of course, how we got here. For the Slovaks, the quarterfinal bye after a big win against the Finns earlier in the tournament, and then the goal differential became extremely favorable for them. And that's really how they got here. And so you look to the Slovak team going up against the Germans coming off of a big win against France earlier in the qualification round. We'll see if that has any carryover effect. I do think that there is a little bit that you can draw from that game, but you really think it's going to be a tight one. And it's the beauty of it is that these two teams are extremely tight. They're built very similarly. And we will see which team ends up coming out on top today. A big game in the quarterfinals. Two teams who not necessarily expected to be that leading charge as far as favorites go at this tournament, but have come on strong the last few days. And so it'll be interesting to see. It'll be a great game today between these two, but also I'd be remiss not to talk about the other quarterfinals. And you know, you look across the way, coming up a little bit later this morning or this afternoon or this evening, depending on where you're watching from. Canada and the Czechs, a huge game in the quarterfinals over there. See, Canada's already taken the first go around at those two. And then you have the Finns and the Swiss, two teams that I'd say are very similar to the Slovak-German matchup where the game can really go either way. And I think in many ways it's one of those that is going to be a bit of a battle. So it will be a great game between these two teams. And any which one of the ways you split this quarterfinal matchup, it will be a great game because you have two teams, very, very competitive teams, and it's just a matter of which team brings their best game, which team gets the hot goaltending in net, because every single one of these teams has a goaltender that very well could steal them a game. And so it will be interesting. It'll be a very exciting day for sure. And of course, the last quarterfinal matchup between the USA and Sweden, which, I mean, that one doesn't really need any introduction. Two teams who were gold medal favorites at the start of this tournament. It's been a tough tournament for the Swedes. They find themselves as the third seed in that group, in Group B, and they go through Latvia yesterday. We were live for that one. And then from there, it just becomes a bit of a question mark type game where, as much as, yes, you know, the Swedes expected to go far in this tournament, the team that is more expected to go further in this tournament is the U.S. And so it'll be interesting to see, to say the least, whether or not this U.S. team is going to be able to pull off the win today. Expectations definitely on them. But as we do approach puck drop, I will ask that you please do smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, If you have not already, we are on the road to 1,500 subscribers here on YouTube. I think the last time I checked, we were around 10 away. So if you have not already, please do smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. Helps get these streams out to more people. But with the game action just a few minutes away, let's talk about the starting goaltenders for a little bit. And you have a really good matchup today. Sam Alavi versus Philip Grubauer. And these two goaltenders in many ways have been kind of the cornerstone for both these teams at this tournament so far. They will need to be vital and crucial yet again if either of these teams really want to end up going far into this tournament. It's a huge game, right? And it is a huge game between these two. A big quarterfinal matchup that could end up spinning either which way depending on how you see this one going. Only Slovakia. I am curious, actually, for those who are in the chat and the attendance here, who is everybody A, cheering for, and B, whether or not you are cheering for the team you think is going to win, because we also want to hear your score predictions as puck drop is now just a few minutes away. So if you haven't already, please do hit the like button, leave a comment down below in our live chat who you think are going to end up coming away with the victory today. As we do approach puck drop today, as far as my personal expectations go, I am, and I've held pretty firm on this one, taking the Germans today, a 4-3 overtime victory. And it would be something special because these games that we've done live streams for in the past, especially quarterfinal games, have normally come out to be pretty tight ones. You think back to the 2023 World Junior Championships where we were doing that run, and the run with the Slovaks against Canada. That was a special tournament to cover, and you look at that one game between Canada and the Slovaks, the Adam Gajan masterclass game, and he's scratched today, so I guess we won't get to see that, but Sam Alavi kind of trying to take his role and really lead the way. But it does appear that we're about to get underway. They have now switched over to the live feed in the stadium for the television at the very least. So we do see Philip Grubauer in net for Team Germany, donning the number 30, and we'll see if he's going to be able to lead his team to a victory today. Slovakia taking on the Germans. Should be a good one. Leon Draisaitl's line will start, as well as Juraj Slafkovský's line for the Slovak team. It looks to be going with the star talent early on here. Tomáš Tatar, Adam Ruzicka, and Juraj Slafkovský for the Slovaks. Draisaitl, Reichel, and Tiffels for the German squad. And we are about to get underway here for the opening quarterfinals of this tournament. This will be the first one of 4 today, and it's the bright and early time slot for us here, at least on the North American side. I'm sure it's mid-afternoon for everybody else, but it should be a great game. And it's been a tough run for the Slovaks in WHF World Championship last decade, so I'm rooting for them to do well. I think that's one of the beautiful parts, and we are now underway. Slafkovský with the early shot on goal, kicked away by Grubauer. It's one of the beautiful things about these tournaments is it really doesn't matter what your past success has been, and we've seen that, especially for teams like Germany. We saw the one year, the Slovaks from time to time. Teams like Latvia who can pull off upsets. All it takes is one really good game to really turn your fortunes. Oh, and a weird play on net. Accidental redirect by their own player there, and Alavi up to the early task. But it's always amazing to me, especially in international hockey, how one hot goaltender, one hot game can completely turn your tide at this tournament. You think, even in some cases, how one goal can completely turn the tide in this tournament. Shot out front. Blocked, but did not get through. Slovaks now pushing in deep. Shot on net just wide from the Slovaks. It's Peterka now with it. It's ran off on the boards. You looked especially... Like, yeah, and I was kind of mentioning, right, where for the Slovaks, like, they're in this position because of one goal that happened at the very end of the game against the Swedes. And they don't get that goal, and this tournament is completely different, right? And you probably don't have the U.S. taking on Sweden. You probably don't have a lot of other things, but the door is now wide open for the Slovak team to go far. And I will say, I'm glad that I got my Slovak Olympic jersey, which is just beside me here, but it is it is impressive to think about how far this team has really come in the last however many days it's been, where they start the tournament red hot with a huge win, and then they play the exact game they need to against Italy. They pull out the win. Was it a testy win? Absolutely, but hey, a win's a win. You never really ask how, as long as you get all 3 points. So a big deal for the Slovaks that they were eventually able to keep it going. And a bit of a slow start here to start the game. Has a few icings, a few kind of weak shots from the point. Shots are 2-0 Slovakia early on here. But I would expect that obviously to change as this game does go onward. Draisaitl lines up against Dvorsky. Loses the draw. Slovakia with the puck will shoot it around. And that's one of the things as well that I do enjoy about this German team is they're not... Oh, and a play in front as Reichel misses just wide. Reichel to Tiffels, tries to jam it out front. Can't get it through Draisaitl. Seider picks it up along the half dasher. Shoots it just wide of Lavai. Rims it around. Draisaitl now on the half wall. Jams it in to Slovaks. Will be able to pinch it off, but won't be able to get it out as Tiffels now behind the net for the German squad. Dumped out to the neutral zone as Germany will once again collect it behind their own net. Haven't been able to get generated too much so far in this game. 17:20 to go left in the first period. Slovaks now break it up ice. But picked off yet again by the German team. I feel like it's going to be one of those types of games for both these teams today. Just kind of that slog fest through the neutral zone where they play a pretty good system, both these teams. And so it's, once again, we talked about it a little bit yesterday in our recap video, but it's ultimately, and especially this game, it's going to come down to if the star players can be star players. And teams like the Germans, right, where you have that kind of very heavy hand with Leon Draisaitl, Tim Stützle, you're going to need them to be your best players in this game. They're going to need to play exceptionally well if you want any chance at pulling off a quote-unquote upset today. I don't know if it's an upset, but the Slovaks still are a very close team to the Germans on paper, and you can definitely hear arguments either which way depending on how you look at it. Jams it out in front for Peterka, but can't quite find it. Kicked out by Rienda. Hoshprasel. Slovaks collect it back in their own end, move it up ice, deflected into the zone. Local TV currently shows skiing, so all I got is you at the moment. Well, I appreciate you tuning in today. It should be a great... Am I watching on Sportsnet Plus? I am watching on CBC Gem, which is the Canadian Broadcasting Company or Corporation is live streaming platform. When does the game start? The game is already underway. We are 15:34 to go. Takac shoots it on and saved by Grubauer. Takac again with the shot and a weird save there by Grubauer. Has not looked overly comfortable so far in this game. My guess is going to be careful until someone scores the first goal. I would agree. And I think once that first goal does end up going in, you're going to see these teams start to play with a little bit more of that desperation factor we've become so accustomed to at this tournament. It should be one of those more offensive games. These two teams play well defensively, but you look to those star talent to really break through here. I am excited to say the very least. Shot from the point just wide to Tar. Cannot get it through. Draisaitl back up against the Slafkovský line here. Be interesting to see if that's more of a line matching system for the rest of this game. We know how much players like Leon Draisaitl end up playing, especially for the German team. So we'll see whether or not Slafkovský, a nice move. Shot saved again by Grubauer. Hasn't been, once again, it's been one of those slogfest type games so far. You're waiting for one team to kind of open the door. And shots 5-1 right now for the Germans, for the Slovaks rather. And still waiting for the opener. And we saw yesterday too that in the Sweden-Latvia game, where once you get that first goal, you tend to find that a lot more of them come. And for teams like Germany, who aren't really shooting the puck as much, you do at some point have to kind of start shooting it. And whether or not they can do that, I guess, is still up to the question. Draisaitl now behind the net. The cross check by Nemitz, not called though. Offside, and Lavai will come out to play the puck. Feravari behind his own net will skate it up now for the Slovak team. Jams it up and will dump it in deep. Dvorsky down in the corner to Feravari across the point. Feravari to the half wall. Shot on net by the Slovaks, just missed wide. Shot again, can't quite get it through. Dvorsky picks up the puck behind his own net. And we'll skate out with it here. Dvorsky. Nice move to get by the German defender, but he will dump it in and go off for a change. It's been a pretty heavy rotation so far of the Draisaitl line and of the Slafkovský line. I'm not sure that's overly surprising, and I think you kind of want to have that, especially early on in this game. And yes, your depth, especially for a Slovak team, is going to be a lot more important, especially as this game wears onwards. But for the Germans, you want to try and get that first one. You want to try and control the momentum of this game. And if you put that top line out enough, eventually you'll get rewarded with a goal. And so be interesting to see as the Germans dump another puck in. They've been really struggling to get anything going in the offensive end here. We'll see whether they can figure that part out of their game. And another icing call by the looks of it. Maybe it was offside. Yeah, I'm shocked that the Nemitz cross-check there wasn't called on Draisaitl. I'm sure he wasn't terribly happy. Well, he certainly was not terribly happy about that call. But once again, your star talent needs to be star talent. If they're getting annoyed, and we saw Draisaitl have a bit of a fit when they played the U.S. and Tkachuk was in his ear about it the entire game. As they're overloading this. Are they overloading the line? They are overloading the line. Tim Stützle playing alongside Leon Draisaitl now, as they do look for likely a goal. And that comes from the icing call and not being able to pick out your line that you're hoping to have. So kind of go with that. Seider picks up the puck. Stützle now down the half wall to Draisaitl. Draisaitl back to Stützle, or Seider. Seider, Stützle. Seider shot. Save by Lavai. Real good save there off the one-timer attempt. And the Slafkovský line will hop over the boards now as we do go to a commercial break. And it's been a hot start to this one. And for the Germans, I think the shots are 5-2 Slovakia, but watching this one, the Germans have shown themselves to be more that offensive type team. Most of the Slovak shots haven't really been of any consequence so far. They have not looked terribly good. But at the same time, the beauty of it is the fact that they don't really need to, because all that matters is what's on the scoreboard. And they've also controlled a lot of that oncoming traffic. So in the end, it doesn't matter terribly much. But we are 8 subscribers away from 1,500 here on YouTube. So if you have not already, please do hit the subscribe button. Like this live stream, hit the like button. Helps get the stream out to more people. It helps us a ton. So please, if you have not already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the like button. But yeah, I mean, it's been, and say hi in the chat as well if you have not already. Drop your score predictions inside our chat. I want to see what people are still thinking. If it's changed since the start of today as well, you think you're waiting for that big first goal. And for the Slovaks, that is probably going to come fairly soon if you continue an offensive pressure. Same with the Germans, where you look to those top players to be top players. And as much as today might become a bit of a slogfest, I do think that that's the type of game that they're okay with playing if you're the Slovak team. So it should be interesting, especially this early on. So looking at our poll, we have an 81% clip for the Slovaks to win this one compared to Germany's 19. 98 votes into the tally so far today. Shot from the backside. It's been a lot of that so far for the Slovaks. Just pure quantity, not necessarily quality, as penalty called from behind the play there. I believe it's Kai Visman going to the box for the Germans. The Slovaks will head to the game's opening power play. Oh, and a bit of a hook play on Juraj Slafkovský for Kai Visman. Oh, it's a good old can opener. That's a tough call to take. You can't, yeah. And the Slovaks will head to the power play. Slovaks 3, Germany 1. That one I could very much see. Right? Like, that's the kind of tight type game that you're expecting. Tatar up to the line. Tatar walks in, passes it back. Nemitz shot from the point, rebound, cleared away by Seider. Dvorsky to Tatar, back to Dvorsky, over to Nemitz. Nemitz to Slafkovský now. Slafkovský down to Tatar. Tatar back to Slafkovský. Slafkovský walks in, shoots, misses just wide. Nemitz walks in, holds. Slafkovský back to Nemitz. Nemitz to the point, over to Dvorsky. Dvorsky down to Slafkovský. 1 minute to go left on the power play. Slafkovský back to Nemitz. Up, down to Dvorsky. Back to Slafkovský. Passes it over. Hudacek. Back to Slafkovský. Shot. Saved by Grubauer. It's a good play there. Hudacek. Shot. Just wide. 38 seconds left to go in the power play for the Slovak team. And a pretty good-looking power play for the Slovaks. Had a really good opportunity on this Juraj Slafkovský chance. Fortunately, just couldn't bury it. Scramble draw out in front, kicked out and cleared. Halavai clears the puck with Toomey in the vicinity there. Gernat shot, looking for bodies out in front. And Tim Stützle breaks it out with a big hit in the open ice there. As that will do it for the Slovak power play. A pretty decent looking one too, I might add there. Here comes Leon Draisaitl now, coming off the, of course, having not being on the penalty kill. Just going to look to get a little bit more minutes here in the next few, just to kind of get that ice time back up. Be a huge part today for the German team. Seider picks up the puck. Seider goes down to Visman. Seider over to Draisaitl. Draisaitl walks in through the zone. Dangles and taken down. That will be a penalty. Germany will head to their first power play of the game. So we'll see if they're going to be able to convert early on in this one. And it will be a huge opportunity for this German squad to see if they can get on the board early here. As we do go to another commercial break. How is everybody doing so far today? As we have our power play graphics now up. Where are we in our chat? There we go. Local TV. Are you watching Sportsnet? I don't think anything's that new in here. Yeah, I mean, it has been a pretty good start to this one so far for both these teams. I think you look to kind of hot starts is a pretty good indication of what's to come, and both teams been playing. Both teams been playing pretty well. Where to watch the live match in Europe? I have no idea. In Canada, CBC Gem. In the U.S., I also am not really sure. Draisaitl taken down on that one. And the Germans will go to the power play. We'll see whether or not this German top unit in particular is going to be able to find their groove here. I reckon the game is already on. Yep, we are 9:30 left to go in the first period, as Germany has gone on their first power play of the game after Slovakia did have their chance. Peterka now down to Seider. Seider passes it over to Draisaitl at the top. Draisaitl with a shot. Kicked away by Hlavai. Draisaitl now walks along the line, tries to direct some traffic. Dump it back off to Seider. Draisaitl now down to Stützle. Stützle shot by Peterka, but can't quite find it through, as the puck will be cleared away. Grubauer stops the puck and hands it off to Seider, who will walk up with it. Seider drops it back to Stützle. Stützle to Peterka. Peterka skates it up. Draisaitl dumps it off to Draisaitl at the line, but can't get it through. Stützle over to Peterka. Szymanski to Seider. Seider down to Draisaitl. Draisaitl walks along, waits, passes to Peterka with the shot. Just misses wide. I am Slovak and I'm unable to watch from Portugal, so I really appreciate the live stream. Thank you for watching. You have a comforting voice, so I'm listening whilst prepping for my lesson. Thank you. Well, thanks for tuning in, and currently at work having on the fly in the background. Agree. Well, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for supporting our live stream. It's wicked early here and where we are up in Canada, so preparing myself for a bit of a war coming later today, going up against our demons in the Czechs. So hoping that it can all end well and smooth for the Canadians, and hopefully they can take their game and end up winning today. But I will be honest and say that my expectation is getting progressively worse as this day has gone onward. But hopefully they can pull out the win today, and we can have a very happy day recap video coming later tonight. Peterka, did he get? It must have been a save then. So there is 7 minutes and 26 seconds left to go in the first period. Shots are 10-2 for the Slovaks over Germany in this one. Scores does still remain 0-0, and as much as, yes, the shots are 10-2, I wouldn't say shot on goal kicked away by Lavi. So Slafkovský turns it up the other ice now. Slafkovský dangles, can't quite get it through. As much as, yes, the shots are, now it's 10-3 for the Slovaks, I wouldn't say that this game has been that blowout-ish. I'd say that in reality, I mean, the Germans have actually kind of looked like the better team so far. And as much as the Slovaks have had some chances, they're not necessarily the dominant force in this game so far, despite what the shots tell you. Germans, more of that more neutral zone type battle we continue to see in this one. This turnover, Dvorsky's shot, saved by Grubauer. Who's winning this game? Well, I mean, you can really go either way. And this game coming in was always going to be a toss-up. I personally believe that Germany still will come out on top. And you look to your star players to really be the star players. I'm going to assume, having not looked at what our chat feature has as far as who you think is going to win this game, knowing and kind of seeing what the comments are saying so far, it appears that the chat believes that Slovakia is going to come out on top in this one. But it's really and a shot from the point kicked away by Grubauer. It really could go either way, and a lot of the quarterfinal games today, we'll talk a little bit more about them at the first intermission, but those games can really go either which way. And you look to a guy like Juraj Slafkovský, he's the kind of player, we saw it at the 2022 Olympics, where he more or less earned his number one overall. Should I bet for the Slovak to win? You certainly can. I'd say that this game is probably not a great one to do that for, especially considering how tight it is. But if you are going to take, and I don't know, I'm not sure exactly who the underdog is, but I would go with whoever the underdog is, depending on how much, because that, as much as, yes, it's probably not a great one, I would say that between the Slovaks and the Germans, it just comes down to which team has played better so far at this tournament. What was your aftertaste after Latvia and Sweden? Well, I was fairly close to my prediction for Latvia-Sweden, so I wasn't terribly surprised. Obviously, for the Latvians, a tough game to lose, but they knew going in that it was going to be a tough game. I don't know anything, but I want to bet. Then I would take Germany, personally. I do think that the Germans are probably, if they are going to win, they will win probably with an empty net or potentially in overtime, as Nemitz now breaks out. Shot kicked away by Grubauer. I will say that the German team today, it will be tight. Oh, and turnover. Oh, but he can't. Slovaks can't pick it up and play it cleanly. Nemitz all alone in front there. But Turka tries to rim it around. Turnover in the Slovak end, as the Germans have been putting a lot more pressure on the Slovak team the last few minutes. Hasn't really amounted to all that much as far as shot totals go, but it is still very interesting to see how few the shots are, even after watching this period, because it's one of the things I always like to say is that shots don't tell a full story, as the Germans have another chance there, which was blocked out front. Shots don't always tell the full story of these games, and yes, it's 13-3, but you look at this one, the Germans have controlled a lot of the offensive zone time. They've had a lot of the better quality chances, but Hlavaj up to the early task, and really the Slovakian defense up to the early task so far in this one. Toomey tries to jump it out front, tries it again, can't get it through. And a weird pile up there. Toomey and Cahoon causing some problems down low. As Cahoon picks it up over to Toomey. Tries to jam it out, but can't find it. Toomey to Cahoon. Up to the point. Shot from the point, but can't get it through again. Another block shot from the Slovak team. They've been a shot blocking machine so far in this period. Exactly what they need to be doing against the Germans, who are trying to go and really trying to jam some plays home. Slafkovský will pick it up behind his net. Hand it off to Dvorsky, and Slafkovský will go off for a change. Dvorsky walks through the team, dumps it down deep. Seider now picks up the puck and starts to wheel it out. Seider dumps it down deep. Oh, shot from the point, kicked away by Lavai. Germans here pressuring. Ale dumps it out, but can't find it through. Sturm now works down in the corner. Reeder. Oh, and a big hit there by Koch, and he will not go for a penalty there. Looks like everyone on the ice seemed to believe that it was. Last time I attended Latvian NT hockey game back in 2000, national team hockey game back in 2000, I got hit by a puck. Oh no. Johannes Sprutz gifted me his broken stick. Well, that's actually a pretty cool story, and hopefully it didn't hurt that badly, but it's actually a really cool story. I'm betting Germany. Well, fingers crossed for you then. Hopefully it works out for you. As I realize now, I've forgotten to change the time slot, as there is 2 minutes left to go in this first period. And a jam play out front shot saved. Pospisil's chance there, saved by Gruber. And scores from the point. A lot of contact out front, but Slovakia is on the board. Now that one surely goes for a challenge. Will it come back? Time can only tell. But Slovakia does lead early in this one. Pavel Regenda for the Slovaks, I believe, tipped that home there. But a nice play. Pospisil's shot deflected. Definitely deflected by Regenda there. I think the time is period. Yes, it was, but I did clock it a little too late, unfortunately. But a lot of contact out front. Curious to see whether that'll end up getting challenged, but I don't believe it will be, as Slovakia does lead here 1-0. Pavel Regenda from Eric Chernak and Martin Ferivari to lead put the Slovaks up 1 early in this game. We talk about momentum quite a bit. This is exactly another shot from the Slovak team. A real good start to this one for Slovakia, as they do lead 1-0 as we head into yet another commercial break here. It's been a really impressive start for the Slovaks, exactly as they need to play against the German team. We've seen, you look for depth scoring, especially at these kind of tournaments, and they've had exactly that. And that's one of the things that always can really separate you from your competition, is the fact that it could go either way right to the very end, and the fact that Slovakia gets on the board first, I think, has shown that, especially with the depth scorer with Regenda, who I wouldn't say is kind of in that third-ish line for them. Now it's a matter of how much farther can they go, and for the Slovaks, it's Germany really underrated Slovakia defense. I'm not even sure that they've underrated as much as they just haven't been able to break through quite yet. They got punished. They certainly did. And now it's a matter of, can the Germans bounce back? Because we have seen the Germans, as much as, yes, they have some good, they have some bad, they have been a team known to kind of battle their way back. And so we'll see whether or not they're going to be able to find their way back. Because it does look like Sam Bennett is practicing this morning. Have the volume off, so I can't tell if that means that Nathan McKinnon might be back too, which would be a huge loss, I might add, for the Canadians if they don't have Nathan McKinnon. But I haven't seen anything this morning on it. So Typically, that's not a great sign considering game time is shortly and quickly approaching. But Slovakia does lead 1-0 here with 2 minutes left to go in the first period. Germany will break it up ice. I am interested to see from here on out how much more time we're going to see that top line with Draisaitl on it play for the Germans. Seider jams it out front, can't get it through. And if they'll continue going with that kind of Armageddon type line with Stützle and Draisaitl both on the same line, and maybe you throw Peterka in there as well, just to really have that one offensive punch, as we do enter now the final minute of play in the first period. Have no clue what you're saying, but I love the enthusiasm. Let's go Slovakia. Oh, that's funny. Speaking Slovak. You're a Slovak now, honorary. Tiffles, along with Draisaitl, passes it, but looked to be a backdoor jam play, but no one on the back door. A big chance for this German squad that just kind of gets squandered away. Tiffles jammed up along the boards. 15 left to go in the period. The Slovaks will break it out to the open ice. Pospisil will dump it out to the neutral zone. 5 seconds left to go. Last chance here for Germany, but that will do it for the first. Slovakia will lead 1-0. How long are hockey games and how much longer is left for this game? There is 3 periods in a hockey game, 20-minute periods. So there's also intermissions in between, which is like halftime for soccer, football, halftime for football, and quarter intermissions for basketball. 40 minutes left of actual play, probably about 2 hours, give or take, left in this game in total. But that is the end of our first period. So we are into our intermission report, if you will, for this one. A quick one. If you are new here, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are on the way to 1,500 subscribers here on YouTube. We are 7 away now at this point in time. So if you have not, please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button to get this stream out to more people. And we do a bunch of different double IHF content, and approximately an hour and a half till you get the result for your bet. Yes, that's about right. Maybe a little longer. And who knows, maybe with the potential for overtime and shootout and the whole 9 yards, could be a bit longer as well. And that's the beauty of playoff international hockey, is truly anything can happen. And that's one of my favorite parts. That's why we've been covering for as long as we have, because there's always an upset around the corner. And got into cover some pretty good ones over the last few years, especially with the rise of the Czechs and the World Juniors. The women's side's always a strangely competitive spot outside of Canada and the U.S., where it seems like every year there's at least one team challenging over there. But it's always fun to see, and especially this year, you look to the men's side too, where we start this Olympic tournament with arguably one of the biggest upsets. Well, it wasn't a huge upset, but I have to frame it that way, that the Slovaks pulled off, because frankly, most people weren't expecting that. But here we are, right? And Slovaks today lead 1-0, and they've earned every step of the way so far at this tournament. They came to play against the Finns in the opener. They got their extra goal. They got their goal that they needed to. And thank you for subscribing. I see that something just popped up on the screen. They won every game, and they played well enough in every game that they had to get to that stage. And so it's very good to see teams that not necessarily expected at the start of this tournament to all of a sudden being back on the biggest stage. And teams like the Slovaks, teams like Germany too, who both these teams now not necessarily favored for a medal. You think coming into this tournament, it was Finland, it was Sweden, it was the US, it was Canada as those big four teams who were all expected to be in that Final Four spot. And then all of a sudden, it's not anymore. And you have teams like the Slovaks, teams like Germany, teams like the Czechs, teams like, you keep going down the list where every day there seems to be getting closer and closer to that huge upset, where even for teams, like the Germans, like even you look at Latvia and Denmark nearly pulled off an upset against the U.S. earlier in this tournament, and it's just been that kind of game. And even Italy, good old Italy, who wasn't expected to go very far, I will say I'm very impressed in the end about how well that all these teams have been playing and how competitive this tournament has gotten. And it does kind of remind you why we do need best-on-best hockey in the world, and especially on the international game, where it is so competitive and it is so good to see. And so my long way of saying that international hockey is my favorite kind of hockey, and it always will be. But with it, as promised, we will talk about some of the other games for today. Some big games going on, right? And you look across the board, Canada and the Czechs, two very... I live in Germany, but I'm American, so I'm conflicted. I would want Germany to win, but if they do, and we USA also win, then we would play Finland, and Canada would have Germany. I prefer US Slovakia. That is definitely fair, and I'd also say that as much as the U.S. should win today, that's not a guarantee either. And the Swedes, I'd say, are probably going to be... I know they're considered underdogs, and frankly, I don't know how they're considered underdogs because they're very close with the U.S. And as much as the U.S. the Swedes haven't had a great start to the tournament, they're notorious slow starters. It's the same thing with the Finns, right, where they're not necessarily known for their immediately quick starts, but as tournaments go onwards, they continue to grow. It's fun to see, right? And the U.S. and the Swedes quarterfinal action is the gift that just keeps on giving, because it could go either way. And you have the U.S. high-powered offense, the Swedes high-powered offense, that they both have very good teams this year. Both were expected to go for gold, and now one of them is going to be eliminated in the quarterfinals, which is crazy to say. It's crazy to think. But at the same time, Sweden, the U.S., very much a toss-up game that could go either way. The U.S., I'd say, slightly favored, but the Swedes are always a tough out at these tournaments, and they continue to put together really good rosters. That game is a big one. The Czech-Canada one, most people have already written off because, hey, it's Canada playing against a weaker Czech team that they've already blown out once at this tournament. But people who know that game and watch that game know that the Czechs deserved a lot better fate. And I think that game in particular is one that also very much could go either way. And it's going to come down to which team brings their best game. Some key injuries to Canadian players, whether that has any impact on the final result in that one, should be interesting to see. And the Czechs not really being able to get going so far at this tournament are due for a breakout game at some point. Whether it's today against the Canadians, who knows, right? Sometimes a team just doesn't end up getting that breakout game, but they've shown so far at this tournament that they're going to be competitive with just about everyone they play. And speaking of competitive, look at the game between Switzerland and Finland. And two teams who are very much so competitive with one another. You know, the Finns, I mean, medal favorites from the start of this tournament, kind of inside that top four teams. And then you have the Swiss, who fell outside, I'd say, of the top four, but still very competitive within there. And they were ranked kind of in that fifth or sixth spot with the Czechs. They were always going to be a thorn in the side of whoever they ended up playing in this quarterfinal round. And for the Finns, I think that's almost a nightmare matchup, where the Swiss are going to be so powered on offense that you would probably have rather played teams like the Czechs, where you can shut down that offensive side, and where the Swiss play so well all around their game that it's going to be a tough game for the Finns to try and play defense and then just kind of cycle it back. So as much as I think that game too, I believe the Swiss are underdogs by heavy, I would say that one is supposed to be or should at least be a very competitive a game between Switzerland and Finland. And then Slovakia and Germany. I mean, two teams that we're talked quite a bit about already today, but very much so could go either way. The Slovaks got out to the early lead, and as much as, yes, that first goal goes in for the Slovak team, the Germans have controlled a lot of the offensive zone time possession so far in this game. They haven't necessarily got a lot of chances, but their chances so far have been very good. Overall, who's a better team between these two, between Slovakia and Germany? I do give the slight edge to the Germans. I'd say the Slovaks are a more complete team, but the Germans just have the better star talent, and so it's going to be a battle. Whichever star talent ends up pulling through today, that will be the difference maker. And then I'm Czech. Our coach apparently gave our players in the cabin the yelling of a lifetime yesterday. Really hope we can pull our heads out of our bums and get it going so we even have a chance. I will say, I know a lot of people are, and I can appreciate the fact that North American media is notoriously bad for sleeping on European teams, but this game between Canada and the Czechs is very close. And it's a lot closer than most people are going to give it credit for because, well, it's Canada. They've dominated every game they've played so far. But everyone knows just how tight those teams are. And you put any one of them on their best day, you get a hot goaltender in net, it could very well be the difference maker. And so I'm personally very excited for this game later. I know that I'm also very nervous about it because, once again, it wouldn't surprise me to see Canada go home this early. But this is where we're at, right? And for teams, like the Czechs who are looking to pull off the upset, there is zero pressure on them to perform. They haven't had a great tournament, but all you got to do is play one good game at the right time, and your tournament outlook and your tournament recap at the end of it looks extremely different. And that's the cool part for me. I'd say that as much as, yes, you really do want to end up taking the tournament, you want to go out and win a medal for your country, there's more to winning a medal. And part of it is growing the game. Part of it is giving fans hope where there isn't hope. And you look at it for a team like the Czechs, and there's a lot of hope that can be garnered. And you look at that 2024 World Championship run where they had one of the, I don't want to say one of the best runs they could have had, but they do it on home ice, they do it in front of their home fans, and you could see how many fans were impacted by that run. It's very impressive to see. And how is the game going? The Slovaks do lead 1-0. Germany has had some pretty good offensive zone time. Haven't been able to get through the Slovak defense quite yet. But this game, one goal isn't going to decide it. It'll be a relatively high-scoring game, especially once these two teams end up getting going offensively. It will be a bit of that kind of slugfest type game. So should be very interesting to say the least. But kind of back to that other point, right? I need you to yell goal when Germany scores. I can probably do that. I can probably do that for you. You look at kind of some of the smaller countries, and yes, hockey's growing very rapidly, and you even look to the juniors and how competitive that tournament has gotten, especially over the last few years where teams like Latvia are beating Canada, teams like the Czechs are beating Canada, and I am starting to see a common theme here. It seems that every team just beats Canada. But you look at it, right, and the Finns are always been a competitive nation. The Swedes, obviously the winners of last year's tournament, on the rise, especially with what they've had over the last few years. It is surprising with how long it's taken them to get back up to the top stage. But it is a wickedly competitive tournament. The Czechs are up there now, right up there with the rest of the teams. Canada's a force of nature. They've been dominating. They are definitely a force of nature, and it's been a great tournament. And I, as a Canadian, gold in our sights has always been what Canada's expected so far at these tournaments. I don't think that's changed at all, and especially coming off the Four Nations face-off, Canada won that tournament, which, for those who don't know, was Canada, Sweden, Finland, and the U.S. Played in like an NHL-style tournament. And that tournament was wickedly competitive. You have just about every team beating each other. If you're looking at kind of that trend across the board, you had the Finns who beat the Swedes who beat the U.S. Who beat the Finns, and Canada who beat the Finns. And so it's that kind of cycle. And the U.S. beat Canada as well. And so it's Canada's your sleep schedule is completely gone. Hello again from Latvia. Well, I will say that this morning was a bit of an early wake-up call. It was, 5 o'clock this morning, in bed at, 1, so not terrible, 4 hours. That's pretty good. That's pretty good, all things considered. I need a Leon goal and Stützle point this game for my all-day bet. I will say that is very likely to happen, and if that is going to happen, you'll likely see it on the power play with the two of them actually combining for both the point and the goal, and especially for a guy like Draisaitl, who is such a good shooter, and he knows what he's doing, especially on this German team where he is putting the team on his back. Especially in this kind of game, it wouldn't surprise me to see that happen, because if the Germans are going to pull off any win today, they're going to need to have their best players being their best players. I'm from Los Angeles, so we're not big on hockey. That is fair. Hopefully, this Olympic run gets more hockey or interest in hockey in areas that not necessarily people are overly into that game. But yeah, I mean, it's always good to see free lock, Leon goal, 1 point for Stützle, McKinnon goal. People might know this in the comments. I haven't seen it yet this morning, but has anyone heard the update on Nathan McKinnon? Because I know he was expected. Well, I wasn't expected. He was injured in the game against France. Wasn't at practice yesterday, so the general outlook wasn't good for the Canadians, for the Canadian center, winger, depending on what position he's playing it for any given day, which would be a huge loss. And then Crosby point, yeah, McDavid goal, sure, Aho goal, and Ranton. And the game between Finland and Switzerland later today, I know a lot of people are sleeping on it, but that game is going to be a good one. And you have two teams that play pretty good defensive styles, two teams that have goaltending that can steal you a game, with Giannoni, who I would expect to start even though he played yesterday, and then of course Saros for the Finns. That one is going to be very tight, and I'm excited for that game. And then, what made you think Czechia stepped up yesterday? The game seemed lazy and slow from our side. It was pretty much all in HS. I do think that as much as, yes, I mean, the final score, not necessarily great for the Czechs, I really liked just how much offense they played with, and they generated a lot of chances. Anderson was really good for the Danish squad yesterday, and he was the reason why that game ended as close as it did, although, yes, once again, the score was tight. You do need multiple lines of offense when you go up against teams like Canada, where you're going to have, I don't want to say an impossible game because that just sounds bad, but it's a nearly impossible game to beat Canada. And we saw it in the prelim tournament that just how much teams struggled to score offensively against the Canadians. And so for the Czechs, who, yes, they ran with their one big line, and they were very good with running that one big line, but at some point you go up against a team like Canada who have that defensive neutralizing threat of whatever it might be, that for Canada's their fourth line, and they're going to always put that up against your best line. And for the Czechs, you can't just have one line competing with teams like Canada. And for our North American friends, it reminds me a lot of, and for those who don't know, I cover the Bruins over with a company called Black and Gold Productions, who you should go subscribe to as well. But we've seen with the Bruins for a while with what they called the perfection line, with Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, David Pastrnak, and those players were kind of the go-to guys for the Bruins, but unfortunately, you shut that line down and there's not much behind it. And that was always the problem with that team, is they had one really good line of offense, but as soon as you shut that down, it became a problem. But we are back underway for second period action here in this one. Slovakia does lead 1-0 at the end of the start of the second period, as Reichel now with some speed carries it up the line over to Draisaitl on the far wing. Draisaitl cycles it back up to the point. Shot from the blue line kicks through, but can't find its way. Draisaitl thrown down again. No call on that one. Trying to grab Newden Powell, or need new snowboard boots. In the quarters, Team Canada head coach revealed. He's a mythical creature. I will be completely honest, I am not much of a snowboarder, so I can't really help you with that. In the quarters, Team Canada head coach John Cooper revealed. I will wait on that one. Don't bet against the Slovak Slafkovský at the Olympics. He is a mythical character. And coming into this tournament, we did talk. We had a pretty extensive segment actually on Slafkovský, and more than one video too, where we talked about him a lot with Albert Schmitz as kind of that as a player comparison. Because coming into this tournament for Schmitz, he's also looking to be drafted, and a guy who is trying to earn his draft stock at this tournament. And he played a pretty good tournament, I thought. And as much as, yes, it's going to be a tough road for him to get to maybe the number one spot if you're looking that far ahead. It's just going to be a tough year. Like, realistically, that's part of the beauty of this tournament, is as much as, yes, you want to try and show yourself well, as a defenseman, it's very difficult, like Slafkovský did, to have that kind of big, eye-catching tournament without pulling yourself too far out of position. Unfortunately for the Latvians, just found themselves in the wrong game that ended up hurting. McKinnon was seen in pain on Team Canada's bench despite missing practice. McKinnon is expected to play. Okay. Well, that's good for Canada, the fact that they will have McKinnon, although then the question becomes, well, do you rest him for later or do you play him now? And I do think that this game against the Czechs is going to surprise people, and so probably better he does end up playing and doesn't kind of contribute to that eventual loss. I have a bet for Nemitz to score because his name means German man and he plays against Germany. That would be entertaining, yeah, to say the least. Nitro Buttes, any suggestions? Be sure to drop your score predictions, whether they be updated score predictions or not. The score is 1-0 for the Slovak team so far in this one. 8:30 left to go inside the second period. And it has been a pretty good game so far, right? And you have the Germans who, yes, they're being outshot 18-5, but this might be one of the most competitive 18-5 shot performances I think I've seen in quite a while. I mean, they've had a lot of offensive zone time. They just haven't really been able to penetrate that middle quite yet. But it's the old analogy, right? Where if you build it, they will come. And I know it's a baseball movie reference, but it applies here. If you continue to do the right things time after time after time, eventually you're going to get rewarded for it. So I think that, yes, as much as for 3-1 Slovak, I think as much as, yes, you would like to see them play well, it's also at some point about, you need the results. And as much as, yes, the Germans haven't got the results yet, they do need to get a lot more to the net and actually get it through the real tough Slovak defense core. But as long as the pressure keeps coming, eventually it will come through. (3-2) Germany. Oh, I see some rivaling thoughts there. So the Germans more offensive zone pressure, but still nothing to really materialized. And another play, tries to jam it out front, but can't get it through. Lavai's look good so far tonight. I don't want to take away. Just found your channel during these Olympics, and great channel. Keep it up. Thanks. Well, thank you for watching. Glad you're enjoying the content. We cover all things international hockey, from the Olympics to the World Juniors to the men's and women's World Championships, and this year, and carried over from last year, the men's and women's U18 tournament. And so we're trying to figure out what's next as far as content goes, whether or not that is we go into some of the Division 1A tournaments, which could be interesting. I'm not sure. We got to figure out the logistical side of that, but I've been kicking that around, especially with how competitive that's been. Shot on net, kicked away by Grubauer. So Seider kicks back to the point, but Slafkovský now waiting for it. Draisaitl loses the battle to Slafkovský, jam back down to the corner. Slovaks will grit this one out 4-1. It does kind of have that. Oh, and Slafkovský down after a big hit there by, I believe it was Seider. That does not look good for arguably one of the best players on the Slovak team. Who am I kidding? Arguably, he is the best player on the Slovak team. As he now heads off the ice, and he will stay on the bench, but he will not go down the tunnel. This would be a huge loss for the Slovaks. And what happened here? Oh, it was an awkward play. It wasn't even a hit. He just tripped into the boards. Are they going to call a penalty on that? I'm not sure. That didn't really look like a penalty. He kind of skated right over the stick. It doesn't appear that it will not be a penalty. A scary play there. Slafkovský kind of went head first into the boards on that play. Not what you want to see. Okay, Cabo. Yeah, and Slafkovský is now being tended to on the bench. Ice pack on the back of the head. And yeah, that's not what you want to see, especially for a team like the Slovaks who rely on him for so much at this tournament. A really tough play there to see. Yeah, that looked ugly. But good to see him skate off under his own power, be able to get back to the bench. Probably just one of those annoying neck injuries. But he should be okay to keep going in a few minutes once they get his concussion protocol done. Oh, breaks in, and they score. Slovakia gets second on the board. A big goal there with Milos Kelemen inside. Breaks away, takes the puck off the German defender. Picks his pocket, goes back the other way, surprises Grubauer, and slides it home to put Slovakia up 2-0 in this one. A costly turnover by the German defender. Wow. What a play. Grubauer didn't even see it coming. He was expecting his defender to get to that one. Yeah, and you can see, even on that poke check, he was way late to it, because I don't think he was expecting his own defender to lose that battle. And even Slafkovsky's in there. Yeah, he's feeling better now. A 2-0 now score for the Slovaks as they lead in this one. A huge goal. As once again they look to book their ticket back to the semifinals and trying to defend their bronze. After last year's shot on net kicked away by Lavai. The Germans now with a little bit of that desperation push that we were talking about earlier. Oh, another breakaway. And they score! Oliver Okuliar for the Slovaks with another breakaway chance find Slovakia up 3-0. Wow. How this game has shifted. And the Germans just getting absolutely picked apart in this game. This is wild. And just like that, the Slovaks look to be heading back to the semifinals. I know it's early and I don't want to jinx, but I mean, you watch this game, and as much as the Germans have had a lot of possession time, not much has gotten through. Wow. And yes, the Germans now call timeout, as they should, because it is time to wake them up. And they have been relatively dormant in this game. Wow, what a game so far. And that's what you want to see from the Germans, or from the Slovaks, is they have been playing progressively better. They've been getting their chances. They've been really kind of putting that pressure on the German team, and now we're starting to see the results from it. 3-0 in this one. 15:26 left to go in the second period. So still, lots of hockey. Chill, Germany's coming back. Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. And that's part of the beauty of this is, yes, you go up 3 goals, but you also know who is on the other side of this game. Kuliar from Hudacek and Dvorsky for that goal. But it was a beautiful passing play as the Slovak forward got left all alone to take on the German goaltender, and did not miss on that one. That's back-to-back, somewhat technically breakaway goals for the Slovaks. And just like that, the entire momentum of this game has shifted. And it all came off of, and the other thing I will say is it came off of the fact that Juraj Slafkovský was hammered into the boards, somewhat hammered into the boards, fell into the boards, got hurt. And we've seen that a little bit across this tournament so far, is when your best player goes down, you tend to see your other teammates kind of pick up the pace and pick up the slack, as Slafkovský has now returned to the ice. Really good to see. But you tend to see that become a bit of a factor, which I don't know if it's a mental thing or what it is, but it's always cool to see just how quickly your team will pick you up, especially when your best player goes down. So now it's a matter of time for the Germans to see if they can get it back on the ropes, because this game is slowly but surely getting out of the grasp. And we saw it yesterday too. A shot on goal misses just wide by Ruzicka. We saw it yesterday too, where the Latvians were hanging around. They were hanging around, and then the Swedes got a few quick ones, and then the game got completely dislodged from there. And so you see that and you go, okay, well, that's one game, sure, but it's a pretty common theme at this tournament is teams will hang around, and then the snowball, and we talk about the snowball a lot on this channel, but that tumbling snowball where you need to make sure that it stops, because if it keeps going, it's going to keep picking up, it's going to get faster and faster, and then you'll never be able to stop it. Stützle with the stretch pass cannot hit, as there's a hooking penalty called against the Slovaks, and Germany will head to the power play. I don't want to say it's a must-score power play, but realistically, it just might be. With the score 3-0 Slovakia, 14:05 left to go in the second period. The Germans will go to a power play off the hook, or the trip rather. Was that tripping penalty? I'm not sure I agree with that part, but Germany will head to the power play. Cook was the guilty party on that trip. Okay, I guess it was a trip. That is a fair trip. In fast time, it didn't look so much like that. And the German power play, we'll see what they can get done here. Draisaitl against Sukel on the face-off. Stützle down to Draisaitl. Draisaitl walks it out, passes it off the back of the net. Seider over to Stützle. Stützle back to Seider. Seider over to Draisaitl. And loses it. Jam play along the boards. Up front to Seider. Seider down to Stützle. To Draisaitl. Draisaitl holds. Stützle tries to jam play it. Can't get it through. Shot. Saved by Lavai there. Draisaitl walks and shoots. Saved by Lavai again. And a huge few saves there from Lavai as the puck is now cleared down the ice. Seider walks it up now. Brings it back for Stützle. Stützle walks up. Gets the zone, passes it off to Draisaitl. Draisaitl dumps it at the line, kept in by Seider. Seider down to Draisaitl. Draisaitl walks it in. Waits, holds. Down to Stützle. Back down to Draisaitl. Back to Stützle. Passes it back to Draisaitl. Draisaitl walks and shoots just wide of the net, looking for a tip out in front. Seider turns the puck over and it will be sent back down. German power play struggling to get much going here. I've had a few good chances, but nothing to show for it yet. Stützle carries it around the net, dumps it off to Peterka down the half wall. Stützle picks it up down low to Draisaitl at the top. Draisaitl down to Stützle. Stützle to Peterka. Peterka back to Stützle. Stützle to Seider with the shot. Doesn't get through. Blocked by his own guy. Stützle. But the blind pass turns it over, and the puck will be sent down, and that will likely do it here for the German power play. It's a turnover behind their own net, but the Germans will recover and dump it back down. That will do it for the German power play. Nothing really going for them. They had a few chances, but not enough that there's much of a momentum swing there. Shot from the point doesn't get through. Another block shot for the Slovak team. That's kind of been the storyline here for the Germans so far, is a lot of offensive possession time, but hasn't resulted in anything. If you are new here, and I'm sorry to do this at this juncture in the game after a really exciting little bit, we are on commercial break. Please do hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We are on the road to 1,500 subscribers here on YouTube. We are 5 subscribers away, so if you have not already, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Helps the channel a ton. We do a bunch of different IHF content, which also means the Olympics every 4 years, and so this will be the second go around of this tournament. Obviously our first with NHL players. If you watched our preview video for this tournament, you know how old I was on the last one, and so probably not doing content at that point in life. But it is a 3-0 game for the Slovaks, and you think about the momentum swing since the last commercial break even, where, you know, for the Slovak team, they found 2 goals in that span. They've shifted completely this entire game and thrown it on its head. And now it's just a matter of how much farther can they go. And can they continue that downward pressure, continuing to put pressure on the German offense, on their defensive side as well. And they can keep blocking shots. It's going to be a tough one. Damn, I was rooting for Germany while Slovakia, it looks like they're moving on. They earned it. It does appear so this early on. I appreciate it, Gadwa boy. I'm not sure if that's right, but appreciate you doing that. And then raindrops on the windowsill. Go on, lads. Only 5 to go. Yeah, we're almost there. It's crazy. Do you keep up with the NHL? I do. I do keep up with the NHL. As Peterka now, shot, save, and another save with Draisaitl coming down the backside as the Slovaks move it back up the ice. Weird play there by Poshpersil. We'll dump it down deep. Yeah, it's been a bit of a weird NHL season too, and you think about how competitive that Atlantic division is. I mean, be honest, I'm a bit surprised with that because it's been, as someone who enjoys watching Bruins hockey, it has been quite the tournament so far. As Slovaks break it up the ice, Ruzicka, Slafkovský, Tatar shot just wide of the net, and the Germans now will break it back up the ice. Back and forth action we go. Draisaitl fires it across, shot from the point for the Germans, can't quite get it through. And another 2-on-1 guy. Oh, but Slafkovský loses the puck going back the other way. Guys, it correctly. Perfect. Backdoor play. Can't quite find it. Shot from the point. Blocked again. Another block shot for the Slovaks. That last stretch was a lot of offense in a very short period of time. That's the kind of game I was expecting to see today from the German squad. An all-out desperation offensive type system that would favor them if they played it enough, because as much as the Slovaks are good going back the other way, the Germans are just as good as well. And so it just comes down to, and what we've seen today is the depth piece for the Slovaks was better than the star power of the Germans. Kelbel fires it up. No icing call there, as Slovaks will break it back out. Dvorsky, another 2-on-1 chance. Dvorsky walks in, shoots, and scores. Dalibor Dvorsky makes it 4-0 for the Slovaks. Wow. Not sure anyone saw this kind of performance coming today, but the Slovaks now lead 4-0 with less than 10 minutes to play in the second period. Wow. As long as the Panthers stay at the bottom of the Atlantic, let's go Oilers. You know what? That's fair. You know what? I can also get behind that. Dalibor 4, watching from Slovak hospital bed. Well, hopefully you are feeling better. 4-0 still going to be a tight game. I feel like I've had my question answered, and I mean, you look to key players, and for the Germans today, key players have been rather quiet. Get well soon, DD. Get well soon. Yeah, for sure. Please, and hopefully you are feeling better. Shot. Saved by Lavai again as a German scramble happens out front. The Germans most likely to do an upset. And I'm not sure if what the upset would be, whether it be Germany upsetting Slovakia or the other way around, but it was always going to be a real tight game between these two. And unfortunately for the Germans today, they just haven't played that well, and they've been getting exposed pretty badly. It's a turnover there now from the Germans. Reichel to Draisaitl out front, misses wide. Yeah, honestly, I am quite surprised that this game has gone the way it has so far. And it makes you wonder what else is to come. Because every day so far there's been some form of upset. And so, I mean, whether this is even considered an upset, I'm not quite sure. But Draisaitl now breaks it out. Draisaitl kicks it down deep. Chernak gives Draisaitl a little rough run there. Regenda. Chernak breaking out, and Draisaitl takes down Chernak. That will not be a penalty called, though. Draisaitl the stretch pass. Tiffels does not go through. Slafkovský walks in, jams it out front, save. Saved by Grubauer. Oh, I saw the referee's arm go up. I thought for a second there it could have been a very different thing. I had the Germans as the most likely to do an upset in the quarters. Yep, Slovakia's looking really good. Germany winning would be the upset by seed. That is fair, I guess. I guess you could look at it like that. And the other thing I will say is, I'm not sure if anyone else is seeing it this way, but the way I see it is, you can also tell the Germans look a little tired today. And part of that, coming off the back-to-back, I'm sure has something to do with it. It wasn't a terribly stressful game yesterday against the French, but it is still a second game of the day, a back-to-back. You need to be up and ready for it, and you never want to be upset by teams like a France or like in Italy, in this case for Switzerland. But it is one of those type games. Could Germany's 2023 World team beat this team? Despite only 2 NHLers, they seem to be better as a team. That becomes the question too, right? And I'd say this German team this year, it's more so you have such a shortened time span that, and people tend to forget this, is the Men's World Championship is an extended tournament. right? It's not a quick tournament. They have 2 or 3 weeks typically, maybe even a little longer than that. And so you have a lot of time. You have the lead up to that tournament as well, where you do play exhibition, you have practices, you get kind of that chemistry built in. At these tournaments, you have a lot shorter than that, right? Where it isn't necessarily that same kind of built-in time. Wow, to be honest, Slovaks got power and Germany did lose to Latvia, so this isn't too surprising. That is fair. And I also wouldn't say that the Germans have played a terribly great tournament so far. They look better, I'd say, against the French yesterday, but I don't think they are quite there. It goes back to how every goal matters, that 3 to 5 goals versus Sweden is why Slovakia is in this game and not the Swedes, for sure. And it's amazing to think about how one goal can completely shift a tournament, but this tournament has reminded us of that fact. And on more occasions than one, we spent quite a bit of time yesterday talking about that as well, but it's crazy to think just how much a single goal, a single moment, a single bounce can shape an entire tournament for a team. Could be the reason why a team ends up winning a medal. Could be the difference between the team losing in the quarterfinals, right? And one moment, one blips of a second, one penalty, one chance, one whatever you want to call it, can be the difference in these tournaments between a gold medal and being eliminated in a tournament that you weren't supposed to be eliminated in. Stützle now walks in, 7 minutes to go. And this one, Szymanski works it back. It's the German Seider. Starts to wheel it up. Gives it down to Stützle. Stützle with the move. Kicks it back. Stützle works it down deep. Jam play. Still can't get it through. Oh, and another turnover. Slovaks work it back out the other way. Hudacek dumps it down deep. Can't. Oh, and there's a trip, but no call, I don't believe, on that one. For those just joining us, it has been quite the game so far. The Slovaks, with a few quick goals, turned the momentum in this game, a 4-0 game now. After a relatively quiet start to this one, we have seen the Slovaks really start to build on their efforts. The Germans early on had a lot of possession, and they've had quite a few chances, but hadn't been able to get it to the net. A lot of it missing the net or coming close to the net, but still not hitting the goaltender. The Slovaks been peppering this goaltender, Philip Grubauer, with a lot of shots, just haven't been able to get it by until this period in the second, where a few breakaway chances, a few bad turnovers by the Germans has been a real difference maker in this one. They now lead 4-0 in what has been a pretty good game to this point, and an offside call there. With 5:25 left to go in the second period, we will go back to a commercial break. If you are new here, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are, once again, I'm sure the people who've been listening for a while is getting sick of this, but we are on the way to 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. We are 4 away at this point in time, so please do hit the subscribe button if you have not already. Let's see here. USA all the way, though. Should be a great game today between them and Sweden. I am very excited for that one. I'm very excited for a few games today. The Finns and the Swiss are going to be an amazing one. Canada and Czechia. I mean, that game, I think you can see on me why I'm excited for that game. And then Sweden, USA, right? And this game too. I mean, they're all great games for the rest of this tournament. They're all close games for the rest of this tournament. And yes, I can appreciate that. You know, look at the score here. It's 4-0. But realistically, it is impressive to see, and it's always cool. I'm from South Jersey, but don't want to root for the Flyers. Who should I start watching? The Bruins. Absolutely the Bruins. Kidding. The Europeans are going to bring back the old IIHF Euro Cup to help prepare their nations for the Olympics. That is a very interesting thought. And one of the things that I've always been interested in is how, certain teams have built-in chemistry. And you look to any upset team at these kind of tournaments, whether it be teams like the Slovaks or the Germans or the Latvians or the Danes. And then you look at teams like France and Italy. And the reason why teams like France and Italy stay so competitive is because they have players that have played together for years. And that makes them really tough. Where you think about teams like Canada, the US, where it's a little bit more that all-star game type feel, because there's so many NHL guys who don't necessarily play together all the time. And that's why those teams, especially early in tournaments, as Draisaitl works it in, shoots, scores! Lukas Reichel makes it 4-1 for the Germans. Don't call it a comeback. Germany gets on the board. A nice play there by Draisaitl. Walks it in. The sauce pass across the crease right onto Lukas Reichel's stick, and he does not miss it. What a pass by Draisaitl. Across 2 sticks, right onto the tape, and that's exactly what you want to see. Oh, I'm starting to realize that my chat has actually been stuck here. European streak, we saw that one. Wherever you want, best watch a couple games. Czechia, Finland, Sweden, Switzerland play Euro Hockey Tour tournaments throughout the year, and the IHF has recently launched the European Cup of Nations, featuring many others. And that's the other one. It is exciting to see just how competitive teams are nowadays, and it's great to see the Swiss, who are always a competitive team at these tournaments. Think back to their men's world championships, back-to-back silver medalists there. You think about other teams like the Czechs, who just won gold at that tournament back in 24. Teams even like Germany, who they were a silver medalist not too long ago. Same with Latvia with the bronze. And teams that you're not necessarily expecting to be at the top of those tournaments all of a sudden are. And we're even seeing it this year with the Slovaks at the Olympic Games, where it's the best on best across the world. And sure enough, you have teams like the Slovaks pulling off all expectations and being above both Sweden and Finland in the grand scheme of the standings. Yes, I can appreciate that the Slovaks lost to the Swedes, but I think everyone knows that game felt more like a win than anything else, especially for the Swedish squad. As Slovaks have a little bit more of a push now, and we're starting to see that maybe a little bit less willing to take just a defensive approach to this game after the Germans had a lot of pressure, a lot more of that desperation type that you were waiting to see if they were going to have. As another icing call here, 4:21 left to go in the second period. Shots are 22-13 for the Slovaks. Why not the Flyers? Always believe in rooting for your hometown team, and if not, then the Devils, since they're in the same state. Out of the remaining games today, from Nicholas Van Heck 7547, who says, out of the remaining games today, are you expecting any upsets or the favorites to win? And what I'd start that with is it depends on who you classify as the favorites. I'd say realistically, assuming you pick Finland, the US, and Canada as your favorites, that should be a hook. I'm not sure they're going to get that call. No call coming. It depends on who you classify as favorites, because realistically, Canada should end up winning that game against the Czechs. The Finns should end up winning their game against Switzerland, although that game's going to be wickedly close. That would be probably the biggest upset. And then I'd also say the US and the Swedes are like razor thin as well. Any three of those games can go either which way. The Swiss are very similar to the Slovaks as far as the way that they play, so it could become a difficult game as Slovaks work it back up the other way. Shot deflected up high there. Draisaitl stops on a dime. Shot from the point blocked. Cowbell with another one. He's had a rough game so far. A few really costly turnovers in this one. I feel like he might be gripping his stick a little bit tighter. Cahoon works it back out to Toomey. Cowbell works it up along the boards and tries to get it dumped in deep. Couliard will dump it down now. 2:57 left to go in the second period. And save your questions for the second intermission. We will be answering as many as we can. We'll see whether or not we can get through them all, as I am starting to see them pile up by quite a bit. But this Slovakian team today, they have been on top of it. And now it's a matter for the Germans as they try and pull off one of the better comebacks, I think, in recent years at this tournament. I don't think anything will beat the Finns and the French back at the recent World Championships, where, remember back to that one, France scored the empty net goal, and then Finland pulled their goaltender again, ended up scoring 2, forcing overtime, and ended up winning that game. That was probably one of the craziest comebacks I think I've seen in quite a while at one of these events. This one would be right up there with that one, a 4-goal comeback, which is doable. And I'm not going to say it's not, because you look at this German team, they are powered for some offense. They just need their star talent to get going, because frankly, it's not right now. 1:40 left to go in the second period as the Germans rim it around deep. Again, waiting there to pick up the puck to Chernak. Chernak will ice the puck as it goes all the way down. 1:30 left to go. Let's see, thank you. Because I hate the Eagles, I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, but I like the Phillies. That's just a weird mix. Liking a team in a city but hating another in the same city is more common than you think. There are a lot of Blue Jays fans who hate the Leafs. That would be me included. Check out the Devils, 4-1. Yeah, I've tuned into the Red Wings. Shot from the point, kicked away but blocked up top. Tatar walks it out. Slafkovský jumps on the ice for the Slovaks. So it's rimmed around. Reichel gives it off to Draisaitl, who's at his speed. Draisaitl works in, shoots just wide of the net. Draisaitl picks it back up, tries to center it, but Slafkovsky's there to pick off the pass. Walks right into a German forward there. But we'll get back the puck. Ruzicka down to Slafkovský. Slafkovský jams it out front. Can't find the equalizer. We're under a minute to go now in the second period. Cycle back up top. Okuliar from the point. Blocked out front. Draisaitl now. Working on the forward, Okuliar. Draisaitl passes, shoots. Save. Reichel all alone out front, but can't get it past Lavai. It's been a bit of the storyline so far in this game so far for the Germans. Just a lot of chances that haven't necessarily gone their way, but a really good play there by Draisaitl. Passes right on to Reichel's stick, but he cannot find the goal. Classic breadbasket type game there. Stützle lines up against Pospisil. Stützle rather, gets knocked down really awkwardly there. His arm twists back the other way. And Slovaks break it up by Sregenda. One second left to go, and that will do it for the second period. Your score after 2 periods of play, 4-1 for Team Slovakia. It's been quite the game so far for the Slovaks. A real quick 2 goals that kind of changed the tide in this one. They had another one in this period, and then, of course, the Germans with a late goal try and regain some momentum. But heading into a third period, it's going to be a tough sled back for the Germans as we do head into our second intermission. And that means we answer some questions from you guys watching. Let's see what we have. If you have not already, be sure to leave your comments in the chat below. As well, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. And yeah, whether it be about this game, whether it be about the tournament, whether it be about a different tournament, whether it be about the IIHF, the NHL, any other league, the Finnish Elite League, fire away. We'll see if we can answer some of your questions here. So we'll see. Let's see what we got. As a Brit, Great Britain have only been in Germany 3 times in 19 matches. Great Britain has a fire goal song. Finally, good score. There you go. Back, what did I miss? Holy Slovakia. Yeah, I mean the Slovaks have had a game and a half, but it's been impressive to see. I will say, for the Slovak squad, they have played exceptionally well, and you can see the differences in the way that they're playing today. Then you can see also a pretty similar trend to how they played against the Finns, where it's good defense first hockey. They transition well off the offensive attack, and when they get their chances, they don't miss. And it's a lot of pressure. They're forcing the agenda, and they're once again creating chances for themselves that they don't necessarily have, that they haven't had to this point. Do I think Germany will come back and win this game? I think there is a potential for it. I'm not going to say that it's a great chance because I'd be lying, and I mean, it's a 4-1 hockey game, which is going to be extremely difficult to come back in, regardless of who's playing. Even if Canada's playing in this game against the Slovaks, I'd say very unlikely, especially with how the Slovaks collapse it away. But realistically, the German team, led by Leon Draisaitl, led by Tim Stützle, led by Moritz Seider, are going to have some sort of offensive push. And if they can find 2 quick goals, they can definitely get 1 with the goalie pulled. They can probably get 2 with the goalie pulled realistically. Anything more than that, kind of coming down the last 10 minutes of play, very unlikely. They'll be able to come back. But this game is going to be a tight one, and it wouldn't surprise me for it to go really either way. If Germany comes back, I'll give everybody on this chat $100. Well, we might have to hold you to that, and with everyone watching, I'm sure there'll be a lot more people joining the stream now. I need to wake up. He didn't score. Yeah, he assisted. This might go to OT. I think 4 is too much to come back, but 4-3, but time-wise is the enemy now for sure. And that's part of it too, right? And there's always going to be that time factor, and for the Germans today, it's going to be starting to work against them. And this game, this end of this game at least, is going to slowly but surely be getting harder and harder to come back from. Will they be able to do it? Who knows, right? Maybe they can, maybe they won't. But realistically, it will be tight. So should be interesting to say the least. You look at this German team, they do have a good squad on paper, but it's going to be a tough game to say the least. If you have not already, please do smash the subscribe button. We are now 2 subscribers away from 1,500 here on YouTube as well. While you're at it, please hit the like button. Help get this stream out to more people. We do have quite a few people watching already, but if you have not already, please do smash the subscribe button. Ain't happening anyway. From Rower 1698. Obviously, it's going to be a tough sled back for the Germans. They're going to need some pretty good offense if they want any shot at making a miracle comeback in this game. But it's not that far-fetched, right? And the Slovaks scored 3 goals in this period. I don't say anything until end. It is true. It is true. But, I mean, that's part of it too, right? Is for a team like the Slovaks, they are well known for being able to go up in games and holding it. And we saw that against the Finns. We've seen that through most of this tournament too, just how good this team has been. But if Germans continue to play like they have until now, they ain't going to do much. That's fair, right? And you need a turn. You need a turn at some point in this game, whether or not they do come back. But it is ice hockey. Sometimes things have happened. And that's the other beauty of it, right? Is as much as the Slovaks are poised and look to be in control of this game, all it takes is one goal going the other way, and all of a sudden, this entire game gets flipped on its head, and we're back to a tie hockey game. Oh, and we got another one. What is an underrated hockey nation not in this tournament, in my opinion? An underrated hockey nation not in this tournament. An underrated hockey nation. That's a really good question. I would say Austria. And we saw Austria at the most recent Men's World Championship. they had arguably one of the best runs they could have had. They have a lot of really quality young players who have been on the rise these last few years. Nick also says Norway in the chat, and I would agree with him. I thought that was one of the teams I was thinking of as well. But for me, Austria, we saw them at the Worlds, and they had one of the best tournaments I think we've seen in recent years from them. They're on the rise, a lot of young talent, a lot of really good talent too. Norway would probably be the most competitive one, I'd say, of the bunch, but very, very, very close, I'd say. So it'll be very interesting, to say the least. I'm excited to see as these tournaments evolve and more teams start to come into the fold. And we've seen it at the men's worlds as well. And there's always teams that kind of pop up and surprise. And there's other teams that you forget about, right? And I mean, the Austrians last year have really stuck with me, and they had an amazing tournament. They pulled off some crazy upsets. They nearly came out of that quarterfinals alive, and they came up against a really good Swiss team. But very realistically, the Austrians, for me, were a team that I'm not sure many people were anticipating to do as well as they did, but we talk about it a lot in these games, in particular, especially at this tournament, where it's the teams you're not expecting that can sometimes cause problems for you. And so we saw at that tournament, the Men's Worlds, just how good that ended up being. And so very interesting, right? And in Norway as well is another one where you have a little bit of that NHL talent. Austria has a few, but Norway has a little bit more. Trying to think who else would kind of be an underrated type team at a tournament like the Olympics, because there are a few, right? And I mean, France and Italy, they played their part this year. I mean, Great Britain always kicks around at these kind of tournaments. Poland was up at the World Championships a few years ago. And so there are a few. And Kazakhstan, I mean, they're always a tough team to knock out. But what else we have? What is your prediction for Finland and Switzerland? I'm trying to remember what number I put out there because I'm trying to kind of hold the line on predictions. I want to say I gave 3-2 for the Finns, or maybe it was 3-1, somewhere in that range where it's not going to be a terribly high-scoring game. These two teams are going to take care of their defensive side, but there will be a little bit of offense. I would expect kind of 3-1, 3-2 would be roughly where I'd say that should be, as far as I'll send every single person watching $100 if Germans come back, not joking. That's 86 viewers plus the host of the live stream. We'll be transferring $8,700 to everyone. Oh, quick math. I like it. Norway is the easy answer here. Yeah, promotion World Juniors, stayed up to the last U18s. They're on the rise for sure. And that's one of the beautiful parts about covering the IIHF, and one of my favorite parts about dealing with the European systems is that promotion and relegation are also a thing, right? Where it's very cool to see kind of how that factor plays into tournaments like the World Championships, like the World Juniors, like the U18s as well, where they're not necessarily, there's more to play for than just, okay, we gotta win this tournament. And you don't see that in North American sports, where in North American sports, you either go for the championship and try and win the championship, or you try and lose so you can get a better draft pick or whatever, better placement in the next year's league. So that's one of the things I love about the IIHF is there's two battles typically going on. You have your teams that are considered favorites at these kind of tournaments, and then you have your not so favorite, right? And so it's part of the beauty of these tournaments, and part of the beauty of the IIHF is that they do employ the relegation system. And so it's one of my favorite parts to see teams go up and down every year. They provide for some of the best games I think that we've seen at some of these tournaments. You think even so to the women's U18s this year, where for the first time ever a Finnish team was knocked down to the Division 1A level. And it goes to show just how much the landscape is changing on both sides, and women's side in particular at the U18 level, but really across the board, where teams like Canada are being beaten at the World Junior Tournament. Teams like Canada are being beaten even at the World Championship. And yes, that's not their best team, and yes, it's not their Olympic team like we're seeing now, where they are having a much better and easier time with it. But there is a legitimate threat to a lot of the teams at these tournaments, and so it is very exciting, to say the least. Dam delivering right now in Cross in Delaware. Can't online bet here, but want to hammer the 3.5 plus 3.5 German line. I would be, like, realistically, if the Germans can get a goal, because you also got to remember there will be an empty net somewhere in here, so you do have to be a little bit careful with that. But yeah, that wouldn't be the worst line. Slovenia would be another good one, and especially with Andrzej Kopitar in his final year, would have been a nice send-off for sure. But yeah, I'd say Slovenia is definitely one as well, who's kind of that underrated type hockey nation, right? This their last chance, so they'll go, for sure, right? And they're going to go as hard as they possibly can, right? And now it's do or die. It's not like there's going to be a tomorrow if they play decent. Oh, well, they can go at it tomorrow. No, for the Germans, it's do or die now. And we're going to see in the next 20 minutes, over the next 30, 40 minutes, depending on how long this game ends up going, just how well they can play. It will be interesting for sure, to say the least. Congrats on 1,500 or 1.5K, 1,500. Did we get there? Let's see. Let us check. Oh, we did get there. Thank you, everybody, for 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. We did just hit it. It's been quite a ride to get here, and this is year number 26, started in 21, so this will be year 5 of coverage, year 2 or 3 now of strictly double IHF content, so it's been great. I started building that community. We've had a few really big tournaments. This Olympic run has been really cool to be a part of. We did the Olympics back in 22, obviously not as many headlines coming into this tournament, but it was really fun to see. We do the men's worlds as well, which has been another really big tournament for us. The World Juniors are always fun. It's been a bit more that chaotic side, especially the last few years for Canada, where you have 2 quarterfinal exits and a semifinal the most recent year. So it's been somewhat fun to cover, as much as Canada becomes the punching stick at these tournaments. Scotland has an underrated team. I would love to see Scotland at one of these tournaments. That would be electric. Just to have them at the top level, that would be pretty cool. I hope Czechia and Canada. It's a good question. That game, I personally believe, is going to be very close. And I know a lot of people, if you ask just about anybody else, they'll tell you that it'll likely end up in a blowout. But time will tell. Can Czechs surprise? Czechs can absolutely surprise, and I think that, like, I'm well established as being a little bit more biased to the Czechs than I am to other teams at these tournaments. And you can go back in all my predictions. I will always favor the Czechs a little bit more so than the rest of the teams, and that's just from personal experience, having dealt with them for all these years. But realistically, the Canadians should win this game by a bit of a margin. It's just a matter of if they can get going offensively, if they can have all their players firing. That's what separates the Czechs from teams like Canada, is the fact that they can make games a lot tighter than they should be. And then from there, the question mark becomes, well, if they can shut down parts of the Canadian offense, do they have enough offensive depth to be able to go back the other way and try and score? I think with the fact that they've separated their lines now from that kind of standalone top side where they only had one line in the prelims, I think they're going to really enjoy this a lot more, and we'll see whether or not they are going to be able to kind of find their way through Canada today, because I think this game is going to be definitely a more surprising one. Brother Czechs to win this. Czech surprise. Finland 4-1 over the Swiss. That makes sense, I'd say. I think realistically that game's going to be a lot tighter than that, and 4-1 means it's likely 3-1 with the empty net as well. And that part wouldn't surprise me, and I'd say that as much as the empty net will always help, this game between the Swiss and the Finns has upset written all over it from the very start. It's the same thing with Sweden and the US, where I know the Swedes are pretty fairly heavy underdogs in this game, but it could go either way. Jakobs Bloden 7592. Oh, well, thank you very much for the 10 euros, and cheers to 1.5K and many more to come. Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. That's very nice. And then what else do we have here? Because I know people are, how can you give away 3 breakaways? This is just terrible coaching. I'm sorry. If we don't want the comeback, Christ needs to be sacked. I do have to say, I find it very interesting the number of European teams this year whose coaching staff has come under fire, right? And it's really, I find it really fascinating because you look at it, it's really amazing to me, just the fact that you think about it, right? The Swedes, Halams come under fire. The Finns, Pennanens come under fire. The Germans now are under fire. Like, the fact that you have arguably 3 coaches all under fire, you don't really see that with, obviously Canada and the US have played well so far at this tournament, but I mean, Sullivan's come under a little bit as well. And I do find it fascinating just how much the coaching has to do with the overall team performance. And it is parts that you don't really consider most of the time, right? And it's very cool, to say the least, just how much that we've seen kind of coaching staffs and why it's important. So yeah, and we are now back underway as I keep talking, but third period action getting underway. We will of course see if the Germans are able to pull off one of the greatest comebacks in Olympic history. 4-1 the lead as of right now. It was 4-0 at one point during this game. Time will very much tell. What else do we have here? Bro, why did you predict 2-1 for Germany? What more does Slovakia need to show you? Honestly, for me, it came down to the star talent. And out front, Draisaitl whiffs on the shot. It came down to kind of that star talent part where I thought that very well it could have went either way, but I favored Draisaitl and Stützle over Slafkovský and Dvorsky. That's for me what it came down to. I thought the depth, yes, Slovaks had the advantage, but realistically in these kind of games, you look to your star talent to be that kind of standalone factor. We haven't seen that so far today from the German squad, but they are getting tighter, and so it'll be interesting to see whether or not the Germans are going to be able to rely upon that as this game does move forward. Congrats. Thank you. As a Czech, I didn't trust Slovakia, but after they show me again and again they can beat the big teams this year, I finally trust them. For sure. And I think they've been one of the scores. Slovakia goes up 5-1 off a rebound shot in front. And they show Draisaitl on the bench. Oh, that's terrible. Pavel Regenda with his second of the night. Wow. Koch with the shot, kicks off right under Regenda's stick, and that will put Slovakia up 4 goals in this one. Regenda's second goal of the night. Crazy to say. This game might just be over now. Like, coming in, you weren't sure whether there's going to be some kind of huge pushback, but that one is likely the dagger here. 5-1, 19:02 left to play in the third period. And wow, what a game. Regenda from Koch and Pospisil. And Slovakia now leads by 4 goals in this game. Crazy. Wow. And at the next commercial break, we'll kind of talk through what this win is going to do as far as standings implications go. Because as the third seed, that is going to help them tremendously. because you're going to end up probably playing, whether it be the U.S. if they come out on top, whether it be, because obviously you can't play Canada, assuming Canada goes through the Czechs. We'll talk about that a little bit more depth once we get to the commercial break here. But 18:30 to go left in the third period. A huge goal. Sorry, no $100 for you guys. Glad I didn't hammer the 3.5 on Germany. Well, that becomes the question, right? And as much as, yes, the Germans aren't necessarily out of it yet as far as 4 goals. Well, it's my payday this week. To finish that thought, 4 goals is the biggest comeback in men's Olympic hockey history. Thank you, Nick, for that part. In 1988, France led Norway 5-1 before Norway came back to force a shootout, which France then won anyway. That's... I always love your fun facts because you always got a good one. And if you guys haven't already, please do follow Nick, the IHF fan, on Twitter. He does some great content over there, and he always has a fun fact just waiting around the corner. Merjlikins Loki said that he was disappointed by coaches deciding to pull the goalie against Denmark. Coaches are under fire from local fans. Oh, and right, Latvia's the other one. I forgot about that. I forgot about them after that whole incident with the goaltender pull, which we have spent a significant amount of time on throughout this tournament. And it's very interesting to see kind of just how quickly something like that can kind of shift as far as overall perception goes. So anyway, like it's crazy to think. As the Slovaks break it out again, Slafkovský on the rise. Tatar now into the corner. 17 minutes left to go in this third period. Can't wait for Team Canada's game. They have 50 shots blocked out front. Slafkovský misses the pass. Can't wait for Team Canada's game. They have 15... Shot, and tipped out front by Draisaitl, but he cannot put it away. As long as Slovakia just lock up Draisaitl, they are good to advance. And it's interesting to see as well. And obviously, we've talked quite a bit about the star power of this German team, but we saw it in their game against the U.S. as well, where if you can shut down Draisaitl, this team kind of crumbles. And if you can get in his head, even better. Koch tries to saucer one in, but kicked away by Grubauer. Shot from the point, misses high. 16 minutes left to play. The clock now the enemy of this German team as a jam play out front by Koch and turned away by Grubauer. Five con spice on their team, and it really shows. Yeah, like this Canadian team has been really good so far this year, and they've shown why that. And I will admit, and for those who've watched our prediction video know that I didn't have Canada winning this tournament at the start. You look at the team, and yes, they have a really good team, but on paper, they shouldn't have competed. Not they shouldn't have competed. It was always going to be a tight game between the two, but you looked at kind of what happened at Four Nations as an indicator of what was to come, and I thought the U.S. frankly played better than Canada at Four Nations, and you add the fact that the majority of the rosters are the same. The U.S. picks up Tage Thompson. Canada picks up Macklin Celebrini. But I don't think even I was expecting the role that Celebrini would play on this Canadian team this year. And he's been probably one of the best factors that we've seen and one of the biggest differences between what Canada was supposed to do versus what they're actually doing and how well they're winning. And so as much as he's young and he's a guy that Canada's going to look to for years to come, on the international stage, that's what you want to see is Stützle works his way in. Can't generate much. It's going to be fascinating to see. It's going to be really interesting to see, actually. The Germans now, kind of that last-ditch effort. You're starting to feel that desperation factor kick in as we get down to 15 minutes left to play in the third period. Stützle works it around to Peterka. picked off. Here we go. Longest Slovakians lock up. Yep. Juniors, we won 8-5 against Finland in the bronze medal game from 5-2. I remember that game. I'm pretty sure we covered that one actually back in was that 23? Yeah, it was 23, I believe, right? The 8-5 comeback game. Pretty sure it was 2023. It was a while ago. I remember talking about that one because remember that was that wasn't even the crazy one of that day. Maybe it was 24. Actually, it might have been 24 now that I think about it. Yeah, it would have been 24 that was that tournament. Here's one more. You may know this one. This upcoming Canada-Czechia game is the 9th time they've met in the quarterfinals or later in the 14 IIHF tournaments since the start of 2024. The Canada and the Czechs just seem to always have, it's starting to become that rivalry, right? And we talked a little bit about it yesterday because we had a few of our Czech friends over for the Latvia-Sweden game. But that game in particular was every game they play is just so tight. And it's a great rivalry. It's obviously growing. The World Juniors has helped it along. The women's game has helped it along. And we're starting to see it on the men's world side too, where each and every year it seems to always be kind of the Czechs going for gold, Canada going for gold. And it's starting to weave itself into just about every tournament that the IIHF offers. And so it's great to see. It's great to see the game growing. It's great to see the Czechs kind of back to, oh my God, what a pass by Leon Draisaitl. Reichel, once again, can't seem to put it away. Draisaitl passes. Draisaitl works it back again. Looks like everything's kind of going through. Oh, and that was not a good pass, but penalty? Hand pass? I'm not sure what they're calling there. Okay. I got to get through these comments now. Think Rantanen hat-trick saves Finland. I would save so. If they can score 3 goals against the Swiss, they're probably going to come out on top. I remember that fastest 2 goals and fastest 4 goals in World Junior history. Yep. Slovakia go. We'll see if they're able to hold on to the win here. Oh my God, German sucks. Slowly opening my festive beer. Czech bros, I know the chances are not very high, but I hope you're going to win. It's going to be exciting. And for the Czechs, I mean, this is their opportunity to remind the rest of the world why they should have been in 4 nations. And there was a lot of scrutiny, and there was a lot of it back when they did the 4 nations and the Czechs were the team left off that. They go on to win, of course, the tournament of all tournaments at the World Championships. And then the question became, well, should there be a 5th team? And I think today, yes, it's a tough game against Canada, and yes, Canada should end up taking it. But this is the perfect opportunity to remind the world that the Czechs are on the rise. They are going to be a constant force at this tournament for years to come. But time will tell. And as a Canadian, yes, I am extremely nervous for that game. Then we move on here. We're not getting any upsets today. 2026 Hockey Olympics looks like a huge L tournament for the minor nations. And I'm not really sure, because it depends on where you draw the line at minor hockey nations. The Slovaks are going to compete for a medal. They weren't considered kind of favorites to go for any medal at this tournament. They were kind of that 7th, 8th place team, depending on where you place them at the start of the tournament. They had a big win against the Finns, but outside of that, hasn't really been, as the Germans do now go on the power play. Paterka works it to Seider's shot. It's kicked away by Lavi. Seider to Paterka. Paterka's shot. Blocked in front and cleared away. It depends on where you draw the line at minor hockey nations, because some might say that, the Slovaks are considered a minor hockey nation. Some might say that Latvia in that line is kind of where you draw the minor hockey nation. But even Latvia gone on to beat Germany at this tournament, which was probably a tighter game than most people gave it credit for. So it should be interesting. And I'm not really sure that we have any specific kind of game. But, and a penalty coming up to Germany. Will we play 4-on-4? I'm not sure anyone knows who that call is going on. It is going to go against the Germans. We will be playing 4-on-4. As we switch to our 4-on-4 graphic. Not really sure what the call was there, but... Oh, playing without his helmet for Josh Szymanski. Did he get knocked off here somewhere? Strange call. We'll play 1 minute of 4-on-4 action, then we will switch back, of course, to the Slovakian power play, given that the Germans did have the last penalty here, which might just spell the end for them in this one. In my opinion, the two biggest elimination round upsets happened on the women's side. Sweden over the Czechs, Switzerland over Finland. The two biggest non-North American medal threats coming and getting eliminated in the quarters. And thanks for getting me back on my train of thought. And another penalty coming up. So the Germans will head to the 4-on-3 power play now for a slash. And so we will play 43 seconds of power play time. Then it will be a minute of 4-on-4. And then it'll go back to a 17-second power play for the Germans. So a big opportunity here with a lot less players on the ice for Germany to really get themselves spread out. Of course, the obvious players on this power play, Leon Draisaitl, JJ Peterka, Moritz, Seider, and Tim Stützle. You're going to look for the Germans to try and bring themselves back within 2 goals on these power plays. If they can do that, there's a chance, right? And a 2-goal lead at these kind of tournaments is a chance. It would be the biggest comeback in history that I guess the team's ever actually won. But it will be fascinating to see at the Olympic Games, but it'll be fascinating to see as the Slovaks do clear it out. 30 seconds to go on the first power play here for the 4-on-3. 3 guys in the box, 2 for the Slovaks, 1 for the Germans. Stützle works it over to Draisaitl. Draisaitl holds, waits, holds with the puck. Pass down to Stützle. Stützle back to Draisaitl. Stützle with the shot, misses way wide, and it'll come out of the zone. 10 seconds to go on the Germans' first power play here. Stützle works at the Seider. Seider walks in, shoots, misses, blocks another shot. Stützle holds. It's now 4-on-4 with 11:20 to go left in the third period. What a move, but Stützle can't get it to Draisaitl. Stützle, the Seider shot kicked away. And it is interesting here because the Germans went with the 4-on-4, a 3 forward, 1 defenseman approach, kept their power play unit on because obviously they're going for goals now. And so we'll see if that continues here where they are going with the extra forward. As we are getting to the end here of 4-on-4 hockey. 15 seconds to go before the Germans will go back on the power play for 17 seconds. Kicked out in front. Will not kept in by Mueller. Oh, what a play. And they score. Frederick Tiffels with the goal, which will put Germany and bring Germany back within 3. I believe that was right as that German penalty expired. So that will do it for both penalties here. Assuming that both players did step out of the box, which I believe that they did. But it is now 5-2 for the German team here. In a really good play there. It's a beauty, a tic-tac-toe pass shot, and Tiffels gets it just by Hlavai, who came out the outstretched there. Right through the 6 hole, underneath the armpit of the goaltender. And we got ourselves a bit more of a game again. 10:51 left to go. Slovakia 5-2. And there's a bit of some issues over there. And now we're going to see. whether or not this German team or this is going to be able to pull off one of the greatest comebacks in history. So that Slafkovský kicks it, misses. Okay, what we got here? Yeah, he's tough. Basically scores or assists every game. Good win. Next Olympic should have Group Canada with 4 Canada teams. I've actually seen that floating around. Same with the German team with like the 4. Oh, out front. Oh, and Tiffels again. But can't hold on to the puck off the Draisaitl pass. He was all in alone. A defensive breakdown from the Slovaks there. Ten minutes left to go in the third period. We are at the halfway point in this one, in this period at least. But to your point about the few different Canada teams, that would be very interesting to see, because then the question becomes, well, you think about all the players Canada has, how would you stack up the teams? Because in theory, you could put 2 probably Canadian squads and they'd be able to contend at this tournament. But you probably would put your best team together, like what Canada has now, and then you put together like a B team. And so whether or not that would be able to win, I'm not overly sure, but it would be interesting. Same as in other sports, bobsled, German. Yep. Hope win for AS and for Northern Czech. For the Czechs, I mean, it'll be exciting, right? And I think that this game is their awakening call at these tournaments, to put themselves back on the international stage for fans that aren't necessarily used to it. And for the IIHF, it's very big in Europe. It's like the Men's World Championships is what I'm kind of referring to. Oh, and saves by Grubauer off the Dvorsky shot, deflected by his own player. The World Championships are very, very dominated by European viewers, North American fans. There's a few that love it, and I am one of them. I love watching international hockey, but the Men's World Championships right during the NHL playoffs, it's not necessarily the most watched event, and so people don't really know what the Czechs have in store, and they didn't get to see 4 Nations because obviously they weren't at 4 Nations. And so I think this is an opportunity for them to put themselves back on the map, and whether they can do it, time, of course, will tell, but I think that this game for the Czechs is really important in more ways than one as they look kind of down the line. We'll see whether or not they can do it and pull off one of the bigger upsets at this tournament so far. Okay, how does 4 Nations work? Like, how do they qualify? The 4 Nations tournament was an invite-only event, and basically it was Sweden, Finland, Canada, and the US. All of those teams were selected with NHL players. It was an NHL-hosted event, basically, in conjunction with the IIHF. It wasn't officially a part of the IIHF, though, more so just with the independent the hockey nations coming together. And it was a fun tournament, and it was one of those kind of tournaments, I'd say, that there was fighting involved. It became a huge event because of stuff happening outside of hockey, but Canada and the U.S. really earned their way through that tournament. Ended up going toe-to-toe in the finals. Canada came on top, but it was probably one of the most competitive tournaments we've seen in quite a while. First introduction back to best on best. It was more of a precursor for this Olympic tournament, and it really did not disappoint. Go Team Slovakia from Lawrence Fraser. Hopefully they can hold on here for your sake. 5-2 lead as of right now with 8:47 left to go. A shot tipped out in front as they dig away at it, but can't seem to find the goal. That tournament was NHL players only. Czechia didn't have a team because they didn't have enough defenders. That's also right for the Czechs. They didn't have enough players. They were pretty close on the number, but they just weren't going to be able to fill out a full team. And what we saw at that tournament as well is the amount of injuries that ended up happening was going to be too great. So they weren't able to fill out their full team, and hence why they weren't there. I think the Olympics is much bigger than the IIHF, where the NHL players are competing in the Olympics. They don't tend to compete in the IIHF much. And that's more so, it's more country dependent, I find. And for countries like Canada, every so often you get kind of that dream team. And we saw that a little bit last year, where Canada had Crosby, McKinnon, Celebrini went as well, Binnington, Parenko, Sanheim. So a lot of the guys who are on this Canadian roster now, and they end up losing to Denmark, of course, but in that game, in that tournament, you have a lot more pressure on you, and that's what we find as Canadian teams with pressure perform very differently than teams without it. And you even think back to their World Championship wins, where those teams that Canada ended up winning with weren't necessarily the best teams, and they didn't necessarily have as much media coverage as, say, the tournaments now. And the Olympics are obviously a pretty big one, but it is interesting to see kind of the differences there as Draisaitl breaks it up. Draisaitl shoots, save by Lavi. Slovakia flag. Get to know them. It's a fellow Canadian from Alberta. I don't support the separation. You're making me nervous for the upcoming game. The Canada will be fine in this game. Realistically, they are the favorites for a reason. They have the best players in the world. It's just ultimately going to come down to execution, because the Czechs are going to make it a very difficult game to play. And so if Canada ends up getting bogged down, then they might struggle a little bit, but it'll still be a tight game no matter what happens in this one. What else we got here? Germany is going to score 3 goals from Huno. It could happen, and I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. Is it likely now? 8 minutes to go, probably not. 3 goals in that span. You're going to need a bit of a miracle, but okay, from this point, Peterka tries the backdoor jam, but cannot find it home. Thanks for doing the game. Really appreciate it. Have a good one. Cheers. Well, thank you for watching, and hopefully you did enjoy. 5-2. Although I know there'll be separate World Cup of Hockey organized by the NHL returning in 28. It's only the big nations and special teams named Team Europe and Team North America, featuring only 10 minutes for Germany. I will say I'm really excited for this World Cup, and the announcement came during Four Nations, and so I'm excited to see whether or not, or how they're going to kind of go about the whole process for that, and whether or not they will go Team Europe, or whether they'll give teams like the Czechs, like the Germans, like the Slovaks, their chance to participate in it. And as much as, yes, it's going to be a quote-unquote NHL event, from what we've heard, at least, it sounds like they're trying to work with other leagues and trying to get it to be another kind of Olympic-type tournament where the best on best isn't every 4 years, it's every 2 years. And whether or not they're going to be able to do that should be exciting. And anything about even football for Europeans, and how they kind of have that international break, and how North America or hockey side doesn't necessarily have that break. I think that's a really good opportunity to continue to grow the game. And as someone who covers international hockey, I'm always biased to that. But I'm excited to see how well that this tournament ends up going. And I hope that it brings and opens the pathway for many more big tournaments to come in the future. But Slovakia does lead here 5-2 with 6 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the third period. It's starting to become crunch time. It would not surprise me to see the Germans end up pulling their goaltender here, because once again, you kind of needed a little bit as far as kind of that last-ditch effort. We'll see whether or not it does come, but you can pretty confidently expect that to happen in this one. 6 minutes to go left in the period now, as Germans, once again, last-ditch effort incoming. We'll see if they're going to be able to find their way through. Slovaks actually like the U.S. low-key. Credit stats, a very good team effort instead of focusing on main players. And what I'd say is it's more about their depth more than anything else, and kind of comparing them to the U.S. is a bit of an interesting analogy, because, yes, I mean, the U.S. they play relatively individualistically, but their team and the way that they're designed is that there's no real standout players on their team. Like, they have a few really good players, and you look to that top line to be that top line, but at some point it doesn't really matter. So they did look like they missed a call there on the Slovaks as Draisaitl will wheel it out. Really relied upon tonight. He was up around 25 minutes at the 7-minute mark, and so I'd assume he's a lot higher than that and probably will play close to 30 minutes tonight. And for the Oilers, I mean, you got to be looking at that and kind of wishing that you didn't send your guy to this tournament, but he will have a little bit of time, assuming this game plays out as it should over the next few minutes, given, of course, that it does appear, at least as of this point, that Germany will be going home in this quarterfinal round. .440 to go. The question now becomes, is Germany going to pull their goaltender, or are they going to be content with the 5-2 loss today? Oh, we have some more people coming into our chat now. I'm starting to see our North American friends beginning to wake up a little bit here, as it's now 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, which means that obviously the early morning is starting to kick off. A happy Wednesday and a good morning to you all. For our European friends, it's more like 2 o'clock noon time, so hopefully everyone's work days and school days and such are all going well as we are under 4 minutes to play here. The Germans have now pulled their goaltender, and in the last-ditch effort, time can only tell to see if they're going to be able to pull off one of the greatest comebacks in Olympic hockey history. Draisaitl up to Stützle. To Seider. Seider holds. Over to Draisaitl. Draisaitl moves it over to Seider. Seider holds. Draisaitl shot. Saved. Rebound. Kicked away. Slafkovský with the puck. Will skate it up all the way to Ruzicka. To Tatar, who will finish the job. For the Slovaks, they will take this game 6-2, most likely, assume this one plays out as it should. But this likely spells the end for the Germans at this tournament, barring any absolute miracle. Slovakia will walk away from this one the winner, move on to the semifinals as the 3rd seed overall. And Peterka just lost out on that one. And then Slafkovský to Ruzicka. The assist, was that offside? That might be offside, actually. They going to review it? Nope. Does not appear so. It seems that, yes, and the puck is now dropped. 3:30 left to go in this 3rd period of action. If you have not already, please do subscribe to the channel. We do post our day recaps after the last game of the day. We recap all the games from today. So if you have not already, be sure to subscribe so you can find those videos more easily. We do these live streams. We're trying to do these live streams at least once a day. We did our Latvia-Sweden game yesterday, today with Germany and the Slovaks. And so we'll figure out kind of what that next game is. But there's not a whole lot of notice. Typically, it's more of that night of, early morning decision. So if you do like the Olympic hockey coverage, if you like watching international hockey events, please do subscribe to the channel. I mean, a ton for us. We just hit 1,500 subscribers here on YouTube today, which was great and really special to be on live for that. Obviously, accomplishment for the channel. Okay, so let's see here. Okay. The Four Nation Face-Off, not to be the Four Nation Cup, was an NHL-sanctioned tournament with NHL rules, such as why fighting was allowed there. Canada's 2015 team was the dream team. It felt like that was the turning point. Canada's taken it more seriously ever since then. Canada entered 2015 having lost in the quarterfinals in 4 straight years to 4 different opponents, all by 1 goal after leading at some point to each game. If that 2015 loss to Belarus, I probably have quit hockey completely. That's very fair. Warren says hi. Hello to Warren. Alex says USA Sweden. I hope Sweden wins. That game I am extremely excited for. That's one that could very much go either way. It's going to be a competitive one between those two teams, and one that I know a lot of people are looking at it and saying, well, the U.S. has been the better team so far at this tournament, but Sweden are notoriously slow starters. The U.S. is a team who is well known for their overconfidence, and Sweden's already beaten them at Four Nations. And so whether that game has any implication on what's to come at this one should be interesting. I'm excited to see if there's any impact there as Team Canada does walk in. It does appear Nathan MacKinnon is involved with that walk-in, and so if that is any indication, it does appear at least that MacKinnon will play tonight against the Czechs. A big add back into the lineup after not participating yesterday. Brad Marchand is expected to slot back in the lineup, so we'll see if he's going to be able to have any big impact. I would expect him to do so, but we will get through these. Let's go. Kendall says subscribe. Thank you for subscribing. I read on Wiki that Canada smashed Belarus 9-0 in 2015. Insane scoreline. Well, that's what it becomes, right? And we haven't seen too many blowout games so far at this tournament. Canada and France, Italy and Finland are kind of those main examples of that blowout type game. But shot from the point, kicked away. But it's one of the beautiful parts about best on best is it's very rare, because even if you have high-powered teams, there's normally a pretty good goaltender in net as well. So it's kind of that trade-off between, well, you're probably not going to get blown out, but it still might not be pretty. I've never been more relieved after a 9-0 win than I was that day. Yep. I think Canada will win 6-1 with how the Czechs have been playing. The Czechs haven't played all that well at this tournament. They've been getting better for sure, but still a lot of room to grow. But I would also agree that although this game likely does end in a little bit more of that blowout, if the Czechs can find their game today against the Canadians and play kind of as they were expected to at the start of this tournament, it will be definitely an interesting game to watch for. Slovakia wins. Slovakia did end up pulling off the win. Hope Dry doesn't take a huge hit in the upcoming minutes. The Oilers need him for the playoffs. Well, that's what it becomes too, right? And I've talked about it a little bit, but I also do coverage with Black and Gold Productions, who's a Bruins-based media company. And with that comes watching the Bruins. And the Bruins had Charlie McAvoy go down with injury at the Four Nations face-off. And in that tournament, you think about the impact that it had on the Bruins at that season. They became immediate rebuilders, and yes, they're performing much better this year, but because of that one injury at Four Nations, and there were a few other factors that played in, but that injury in particular as well played into the fact that the Bruins turned into a rebuilding team, and so it was interesting, and it was that's part of it too, and that's one of the many reasons why NHL players haven't been to the Olympics in so long is because injuries are absolutely a factor. And you've seen it already with Kevin Fiala for the LA Kings, who is now, of course, out for the season. And so the fans are already coming back and saying, well, do we really want this? And it's definitely a question mark, and one that is very fair to be asking. Slovakia have 9 NHLers versus 7 NHLers versus for Germany. It's also about quality of NHLers, but that is a good point, and it's fair because the Slovaks are definitely a more deep team as far as roster goes. But as far as star power goes, it was the Germans. And today we found out that, the Slovak depth beat the German star talent. So good to see, really, for both sides that they both have what it takes. And the Germans today falling a little bit short, looked a little bit sloppy early on. And part of that was probably because they're coming off the back-to-back. So it was a tough one for sure. They might pull their goalie. Beautiful game. Proud of us. Slovakia with hockey. Will you also stream Canada-Czechia? Very unlikely. I don't believe I will be. Typically, we haven't done a Canada game in quite a while. I enjoy doing the games that I can be a little bit more impartial on. But I will say likely not. I'm considering and I'm kicking around going live tomorrow for the gold medal game of the women's tournament. So we might do that. So be on the lookout for that. Be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified when we do go live. So I'll put out a poll later today to see if there is much interest in that. As obviously it is very fun interacting with everybody, but once again, I can also appreciate that majority of our audience is actually European and not Canadian or really North American for that sake. There's 34 seconds left to go in this period. This game is just about over here, and it's been a good one. And the Slovaks really shattered my expectations of them today. I had the Germans winning in overtime, and I thought that this game really showed what's up. Okay, what else we got here? Slovakia, they didn't challenge. I get off work in 30 minutes. I'll be watching Team Canada on Peacock. It'll be a great game, and I'm really excited. I'm nervous, and that tends to mean good things because typically when I'm overconfident, it means Canada's about to lose. And so hopefully Canada can pull through with the win today. A big game over, of course, in the quarterfinal round. We'll see if they're going to be able to pull through in that one. 20 seconds left to go in the third period here between Slovakia and Germany. The Slovak fans are on their feet. They are singing. They are heading to the quarterfinal round. Yes, we need the rat. Thank you for the watch party. Have a nice day and good luck to Canada. May they bring joy to you. I really hope they can. But that will do it. Slovakia will move on to the semifinals where they will look to once again earn their way to a medal at this tournament after a 2022 bronze medal. Should be exciting to see. It's going to be a crazy game. Canada, the Czechs coming up later today. You have Switzerland and Finland as well. Sweden and the USA as your other quarterfinals. Slovakia does take it today. A huge win for them. And now the question becomes, who will they end up playing? Will it be the US? Will it be the Finns? Will it be Switzerland? Who is it going to be? Will it be the Swedes? Is Canada going to get upset? Is it going to be the Czechs? Honestly, time will only tell. It's going to be an exciting day of hockey. I hope you all have a great day. But if you made it this far, thank you for watching. If you'd like to drop a like, if you really liked it, please do consider subscribing. Leave a comment on your thoughts on the game. But with that, thank you all, and I will see you next time.